Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. Welcome to day 784. Inflation eased for the 8th straight month. Consumer prices increased 6% in February from a year ago, down from 6.4% in January, and a 40-year peak of 9.1% in June. Inflation, however, remains far above the Federal Reserve's 2% annual inflation target. On a monthly basis, prices increased 0.4%. Just before the collapse of two major banks, which in some ways is the result of the Fed's efforts to raise borrowing costs after years of near-zero interest rates, Chairman Jerome Powell had opened the door to re-accelerating the pace of rate hikes if inflation remained high. Many economists, however, now expect the Fed to either slow its rate hikes or stop them altogether when it meets next week. Meanwhile, the Justice Department and the SEC opened investigations into the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. The investigations are reportedly focused on stock sales by several bank executives made just days before the bank failed. The DOJ's probe involves fraud prosecutors in Washington and San Francisco. No one at the bank, however, has been accused of wrongdoing, and the investigation could end without charges being brought. Separately, a class action lawsuit was filed against the parent company of Silicon Valley Bank, as well as its CEO and its chief financial officer, alleging that the company understated the risks that the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes had the potential to cause irrevocable damage to the company. Moving on, the EPA proposed limiting the amount of harmful forever chemicals in drinking water, the first time that the federal government has suggested setting a standard for a class of chemicals known to pose significant health risks. The proposal would require water utilities to detect and reduce PFAS contamination at 4 parts per trillion, the lowest level at which PFAS can be accurately measured and detected. Last year, the EPA found that the chemicals could cause harm at levels much lower than previously understood, and that almost no level of exposure was safe. Moving on, Biden signed an executive order designed to increase background checks before firearm sales. The executive order directs Attorney General Merrick Garland to clarify the statutory definition of someone who is engaged in the business of selling firearms, and to come up with a plan to deal with firearm sellers who are either avoiding doing background checks or may not realize that they are required to do so. The National Instant Background Check System carried out more than 31 million background checks on people looking to own firearms or explosives just last year. And finally, Russian fighter jets intercepted and ultimately collided with a U.S. drone over the Black Sea. 2 Russian Su-27 aircraft flew in the vicinity of the U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone for about 30 to 40 minutes and dumped fuel on the unmanned drone several times before one of the warplanes hit its propeller. The drone was conducting routine operations over international airspace and was brought down by operators after the collision, which the U.S. military said was the result of reckless actions by Russian pilots. Russia, meanwhile, denied that the jet made contact. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.